already know the drill. We back again with another episode of Buckle Up with the Boys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So strap on your seatbelts, cause it's all pedal to the metal from here. And without further ado, your amazing host, Drew Billy.
Welcome back to another episode of Buckle Up with the Boys here with your host, Drew Billy, Nate Stice, and Trevor Dinsmore. It is a pleasure, fellas. Very interesting week of football last weekend. But how are you boys doing today?
Doing great, man. Glad to be back for another episode talking NFL football and national championship recap, coaches firing. We have a lot of good stuff in store for everybody.
We're good, buddy. Where's made the playoffs? I mean, I know we were talking about just a few minutes ago, 10-point underdogs, but hey, hammer the money line at plus 420. Am I right?
Right. No, but yeah, speaking of the Steelers, we got the Bills up, we'll talk about that later in the show here, but Steelers game, boys, any opinions from that game? Anything you caught on to? I'll go last because I'm long-winded as all hell. But whoever wants to go first on that, just your opinions on the game.
Yeah, I'll make mine short and sweet. I watched part of the game. I had a lot of different sporting events I was at on Saturday. Was at one of the country's best high school basketball tournaments in Erie. So I was watching that a little bit on my phone and watching some of the action in person at the basketball game. But I'll tell you what, Mason Rudolph battled through adversity in that football game better than any Steelers quarterback I've seen in the last, 3 to 4 years. A few fumbles going in. He didn't play particularly amazing, but it wasn't a game of slinging it all over the yard. He was efficient with his passes. I think 18 to 20, 150 yards. Huge touchdown pass to Deontay Johnson that kind of, was one of the signature plays of the season, especially in that game too. But yeah, Mason continues to prove that he's the hot hand and maybe our guy to consider moving forward in the next season. I hope I didn't speak too quickly about it. He's still got a game in front of him with the Buffalo Bills. I wish people would quit asking him if he's going to be our quarterback next year, because I'll tell you what, if I were Mason, I don't even know if I'd stick around either, considering some of the things that this organization's put the guy through, in his career. So, but yeah, I'm glad he's our quarterback going into this weekend. I think he's certainly the best option. Not many quarterbacks truly are playing better right now than Mason Rudolph. I can think of a few, but he's certainly playing the best football of his career, maybe of his entire life. So yeah, big signature win in the, over Baltimore, at Baltimore. I think we've beaten them 7 out of the last 8 times, which is kind of crazy to think about, that we had such a great record against them. And we handed them 2 of their 4 losses this year. Now, I understand this was against backups and reserves, whatever, but still, we needed to win and we got it done. So excited for this weekend. I don't think it's a favorable matchup. I would have rather have gone to Arrowhead. I never would have thought I would have said that, coming into this season, but the games aren't won on paper. So I'm excited for the opportunity. Hopefully they can make the most of it. And this is certainly a different football team with Mason Rudolph at the helm than it has been with Mitchell Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. So that's really all I have to add.
I've said this to many people that I've watched the games with, and of course to you, Nate, some of our friends that we've watched the games with. It's amazing what can happen when you just execute. And that's what Mason Rudolph does. He just freaking executes. It's not always the big plays, although he's had a few of those. Right. He had one to Deontay this past week, that big 71-yard touchdown on the first play of the fourth quarter. Those happen, but those happen because you execute the short stuff. You execute the medium stuff. You stay on schedule, and that's what we're doing best with Mason right now. We're running the ball well. We're making the short intermediate throws, which is leading to opening stuff up downfield. It's basic strategy, guys. It's not that difficult to comprehend. Of course, it's a little more difficult on the coach's side to strategize and get everything together with a game plan, but it's just amazing how smooth things are when you make the throws that you're supposed to make. Mason Rudolph completed 18 of 20 passes. When's the last time a Steelers quarterback completed 90% of their passes in a game? It's been a minute. I mean, I know he didn't have a whole lot of yards, but you couldn't throw for a whole lot of yards in that slop. It was a monsoon, to say the least. Hence, why we had to run the ball down their throat. Najee had another big game. Warren kind of had an off game. He had those couple of fumbles, let the ball slip a little bit, but we didn't let it cost us. Unfortunately, to kind of get to the negative part of the victory and the negative part of making the playoffs against Buffalo Bills, we have officially learned today TJ Watt is confirmed out against the Bills. But of course, guys like Herbig and Golden have filled in nicely for him this season. Can't say too much about his reserves in past seasons. I still think we have a fighting chance. I still think we can keep the game close, but obviously, since his debut, we've only won one game without TJ Watt.
Yeah.
He's a game wrecker any way you look at it. So it's going to be difficult. But these last three games, Steelers have proven me wrong every game. I said we were going to lose out. We won out, and we made playoffs seemingly smoothly. I can't believe I'm saying that after how the first 14 games of this season went up, down, east, west, north, south. We went every which direction, but smoothly north, and we went smoothly north. So, yeah, I mean, can't wait for another playoff game for the Steelers. Hopefully we can get our first playoff win since 2016. And echo your comments, Nate. I'd rather be going to Arrowhead. Can't believe I'm saying that, but I'd rather be going to Arrowhead. Although, weirdly enough, it is supposed to be colder in Arrowhead this weekend than it is at Orchard Park. So we'll see how that game goes as well. But yeah, can't say enough about how this team is done. And I will say this too: KZ will be back, and Tomlin is very optimistic about Minka coming back. So. While we did lose Watt, we might gain a couple key pieces in the secondary to keep that vertical game at bay for the Buffalo Bills. Though, like we've talked about in past weeks, they've proven they can run the ball too. So we're going to have to stop James Cook.
Right. No, both you guys have great points. I have to say, just Mason does these things that just amaze me at times. I know they're very simple things. The two hands on the ball when he realized that he was losing grip of the ball, that kind of gave me more gratitude to him. Also, Najee had, I think, finally a breakout game that I said, holy shit, I'd rather have him than Jalen Warren in. And then, TJ going down, Montez Adam, what the hell? It's a freak thing, but God, the worst time for this to happen. It happens. But no, I think if we're able to spread the ball, boys, the Steelers are a dangerous team with Mason Rudolph. I think, and I've said it multiple times with you guys, George Pickens is a stallion, and Mason is his. He lets him out of the gate, and he lets him have fun and run in a field like a stallion should. So it was nice. It's nice to finally see that happen. But we already touched on it. With TJ's injury, very impactful because, I think everybody out there saying besides us, we already lost this game because he's not on the field. Would you say that?
Well, wouldn't say we've lost it necessarily, but it certainly dampens our chances. I believe. Dinsey said the game wrecker.
Right.
I believe he's one of two players in NFL. 3 seasons of 19 sacks or more, joining his brother as the other.
Right.
So those Watt brothers are built different. So we're going to be out there, no question. But, we have some better reserves than we had in the past to kind of fill in for him. We're getting some of the right defensive pieces in the backfield to help out a little bit as well. So I'm not optimistic, but, I'm just trying to let my feelings kind of suppressed here because as soon as I really have done so, we started winning and, I haven't gotten too high or too low. I did get pretty pumped up after the Titans, won and got us into the playoffs. It's probably the happiest moment of the season so far. That was pretty amazing. But yeah, I think it certainly dampens our chances not having TJ out there. He's different. He warrants double teams, different blocking schemes. He's decent enough in the run game as well. But yeah, he's going to have an impact on our pass rush. And unfortunately, our secondary and linebacking crew is so banged up, even if we are getting some of our people back, that, that pass rush, won't be quite the same and won't be able to help some of those guys out along the way. So it's something to watch. I think one of the key matchups of the game is how the Steelers stop the Bills tight end. I think if they can hold Dawson Knox and Kincaid at bay, they're going to be in good shape. Because if you look at some of the games that we played this season, some of our worst losses were games in which the tight ends got loose. Hunter Henry destroyed us with the Patriots, and McBride from the Cardinals owned us, and those are two good football players. I'm not going to say they're not, but I'm saying Buffalo has two very capable tight ends who are, top half, top 20 of the league. And, I think those are kind of the X factors of their offense. Everybody knows about Diggs and Crew at the wide receiving realm, and, Cook out of the backfield, and then Fournette and Murray, as the kind of ground and pound back, short yardage guys. But Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, I think, are the guys that are going to make a difference for them. I think that's where it lies from what I can tell.
Nate said it. You said it yourself. This game's not played on paper. If this game was played on paper, Bills would be blowing us out. Plain and simple. Game's not played on paper. But yeah, would I give up? Would I give up Minka and KZ to put TJ back in there? Probably. He's just that much of a difference, and he's that much of a difference in the QB run contain game as well. That's a very underrated aspect of his game. He just gets to the outside edge so easily against a lot of times right tackles, and he just, like I said, he's just a game wrecker, dude. He's just a game wrecker. He just, yeah. I have a bad feeling about the impact that Josh Allen's going to have, like I said, running the ball when TJ Watt's not in there. That's a big cause for concern. If we're unable to get a push at the edge rusher positions, I know Highsmith can get a push, but I'm not, of course, I'm still not sold on Golden or Herbig or those type of guys having a similar push to TJ and forcing Josh Allen inside, forcing him to throw the ball into hopefully what is a decent secondary for us this week. Yeah, worst time of the year possible for that to go down, but there's been bigger upsets and bigger moments. I think the Steelers can pull it off. Just a matter of them playing the game, just a matter of them executing, and it's a matter of them keeping the ball out of Josh Allen's hands as much as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Good news is it's going to be a bit more of a slugfest type of a game with how cold it's going to be. So I think that tends to – normally I would say that plays more into the Steelers' favor, but it kind of plays into both teams' favor because, like I said, James Cook and the Bills have been running it well. Najee and Warren have been, absolute bowling balls at running back, and we've been able to spread those guys out wide, give them a little bit of versatility, and utilize them very, very well. So it's going to be a slugfest, and I'm looking forward to it. It's the type of football I like to watch.
Yeah, one thing before I let you go, DB, I think the Steelers' kind of path to victory. I didn't really talk about that. I talked about the Bills, how I think that their path to victory is those tight ends, and like you said, Denzi, hitting Josh Allen in the face. However, the Steelers' key to victory is being able to stay on schedule on offense, because when they stay on schedule on offense, they're taking a lot of time off the clock.
Oh yes,
rhythm of the Buffalo Bills offense, and that's an offense that if they get a couple shots in, they can catch fire pretty quickly, even though they've kind of been winning games with James Cook certainly leading the way, setting the tempo with the run game. However, we know Gabe Davis is a big play threat, Diggs as well, Shakir is a big play threat as well, and then, of course, Josh Allen, with his legs can make some big plays as well. But yeah, I think it truly comes down to, can we force turnovers on the Bills? And Josh Allen's been coughing up the ball at a high rate, and it hasn't quite cost them on this, this pretty good stretch that they're on. I think winning 6 of their last 7 to get into the playoffs and winning the AFC East for, I believe it's the 5th time in a row. So a huge key is staying on schedule on offense so we can waste some time on the clock and, playing from ahead, and then also forcing those turnovers and executing off of those. I think that's truly the magic formula to beating them, because we're not going to outshoot them. I don't think we're going to outshoot many people on offense, even if Mason's our quarterback and he's playing pretty well. Certainly against the Seahawks you might, because that's kind of an up and down team that missed the playoffs this year, took a slight step back. But yeah, I think those are our keys to victory, versus what the Bills' keys to victory were. So yeah, sorry to kind of cut you off, DB, but I just wanted to speak about that real quick.
No. This is I'd rather listen to you guys talk than hear myself talk. But I'm going to be honest, boys. What a shit show yesterday was in the coaching firing department. I know you boys have followed it closer than I have. Just your points. I know Trevor has some things he wants to touch on too. But yeah, take it away. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so I listed out all the head coach firings that we've seen this season. There's been 6 of them, as well as a couple of question marks and actually a big coordinator and staff firing that I think is pretty prevalent to a franchise that was on the cusp of doing really well this season and unfortunately fell off. And you'll see who I'm talking about when I get down to that. So I'll give you guys 4 options here. In terms of when they were fired, was it too fast, too slow? Was it right on time? Or I'll give you this little caveat: should these guys have never been fired? So I'll run down the list, and I'll let you both respond accordingly. Ron Rivera of the Washington Commanders.
I personally believe right on schedule. They gave him a year. It was his team. The ownership changed. They wanted to see how he did with some of the pieces that they had in place that, him and the previous regime of management had. And certainly it wasn't good enough. However, I'll say this. Trading Chase Young and Montrezl Sweat, that wrecked an entire season. This was a football team that was 3-3. We weren't sure if they were good or not. Right. Well, we found out if they were good or not. They weren't good at all. They were arguably the worst football, especially when you take their entire pass rush and then expose what was a absolutely horrendous secondary this year. Probably the worst in the league, if not one of the worst in the league. So yeah, I think Ron Rivera's though deserved that opportunity to see what was going on. And honestly, what was the coaching change in the middle of that season going to warrant? You know what I mean? Like, what was it going to really do? Nothing. You might put Bieniemy as the interim, and nothing would have significantly changed. I don't believe. I think it was more of a personnel, them wanting to go in a different direction. So yeah, I think that they fired him right on schedule. I will say this: Ron Rivera is a very good man, a really good coach, and I don't know if he'll ever get another chance in the National Football League as a head coach. But I hope this is not the end for him. He's just a good guy, so it's tough to kind of see him. He's been through a lot.
Yep.
But I do think it was right. I think it was the right time at the end of the season. Let them play it out, and then they're going to bring in their guy. They have a lot of guys on their list, and they have a lot of free agents that they want to go after too. So I personally think it was right on schedule.
Yeah. Trevor, looking at his record, 7-9 in 2020, 7-10 in 2021, 8-8-1. 22, and then 4-13, 20. You're just slowly getting worse.
Yeah.
It was the right time. I love Rivera, but it's sad to see him go. But like Greg Olson, I think, said during their game, it's a produced league. If you're not producing, even if you're a good guy, they're going to kick you the hell out of there. So.
That's how it goes. And we do have to bear in mind most of his tenure was under Dan Snyder and his management team, which, as we all have found out, is probably one of the worst management teams in NFL history. So I cut him a little bit of slack for that. But at the same time, I have called this man Riverboat Ron for a reason, and he more than proved that with the Commandos this season. And like you said, Nate, trading Sweat, trading Young in the middle of the season did not help their cause, and they've obviously found new homes in Chicago and in San Francisco, respectively. But no, I'm with you guys both. I think this was good timing. I didn't think you wanted to disrupt the season, disrupt the flow of the season, even though we knew where it was kind of headed. And it'll be interesting to see, honestly, what the Commanders do with that draft pick, who they take with it, or if they try to move off of that, like the Bears are rumored to move off of theirs. So maybe they'll work something out there too. I don't know. It'll be interesting time for that franchise. Next name on the list, and the news just broke. I believe it was early this morning. One of the first notifications I got on my phone today. Mike Vrabel. What do you think, Nader?
He should not be fired. Mike Vrabel is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I don't care what that record shows. That team on offense and in the secondary stink. I don't care. It's not to me. I just don't think they have the right mix of people. A lot of questions at quarterback. They overpaid for Ryan Tannehill. Then they bring in Levis. So that was and then you whiff on Willis last year. You arguably waste a pick with it. You have this Henry situation. You can't figure that out. I mean, there were so many distractions this year. And then also, I'll say this, playing in one of the best divisions in football this year. They had, I know they only got team in, but they had the next, two teams out in the AFC. They were all right in it to the last day. So, it was a good division. Vrabel's done some really good things. Been to an AFC Championship game with Ryan Tannehill, but practically doing nothing, throwing for less than 100 yards in those victories. And King Henry running all over the place. But I'm going to say this: Mike Vrabel played and coached his butt off until the last second. And we have him to thank for getting in the playoffs. It's good that he did his old team, the team that he started his NFL career with, a favor. However, I think the reason that he was fired was for one reason and one reason only. And it was because they think that New England's going to have an opening for a coach. And they thought it would be a quicker idea to let him go, fire him, get their new guy, who I think is going to be an offensive coach as opposed to Vrabel as a defensive coach. Let Vrabel go and bring in their guy who's an offensive coach to fix what was a very underwhelming offense that has some pieces, but not a lot of great pieces. However, the final point I'm going to say is I think what did him in was letting A.J. Brown go. Was trading A.J. Brown. I think if they don't trade A.J. Brown, this might be different. The Titans' last couple seasons very well might be different. Heck, let's say another thing too. They had so many injuries last year. They had Josh Dobbs coming in the final week for a chance to make the playoffs, and the dude was barely on the team for more than a few days. So that's how close he had them. But to get to that point, they also had one of the biggest collapses in the regular season NFL history. They started out, 7-8 wins and a few losses and almost lost their way out of the season, and they missed the playoffs. And then this year certainly didn't produce to the level that they thought that they should have. But yeah, there was a few moves that I think really cost him, and AJ Brown move was one of the biggest ones. And then advocating for Malik Willis to get drafted was probably another one, because you waste what could have been depth in the secondary on the offensive line, all that good stuff. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Vrabel. I don't think he should have been fired, but I understand if they think he's going to jump ship and they think that they got to score more points, then it was the right time for them. I understand it. So,
right. Natester, you said it. When I saw him get fired, the first thing went to my mind. He was sitting in the suite with Kraft earlier this season, got inducted to the Ring of Honor. Yep. I could see him coaching the Patriots. I don't know, but I don't know Bill. And are they going to move Bill the GM and then have Vrabel go into coaching? But we don't want Bill to be GM because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, because he's drafting third-round rugby players. I don't know. But overall, I just looked up his record, 54-45. He did get him to an AFC championship in 2019. It's not a bad coaching resume for a head coach. He served in Houston Texans as a defensive coordinator, but Vrabel's not done in the NFL.
No.
So
hell no. Oh no.
I've seen that some places. The guy knows what the hell he's doing. I mean, I wouldn't mind him coming over to the Steelers being a defense coordinator. I'm not going to lie, but that's probably not going to happen. But no, good points. Good points. Yeah.
I'm with you there again, Nate. Probably shouldn't have been fired, but I know there was rumors floating around that they were going to trade him as well. Maybe something involving Bill Belichick and the Patriots and something along those lines. So might as well just cut out the middleman. And, kind of like social media was blowing up today about the Titans wanting to make it an easier, swifter process. And I get it as an organization if you want to do that. It's like me shopping on Amazon. I want to make it quick and painless, right? So, 2 clicks and done. Tennessee Titans, 2 clicks, or in this case, 2 words, and Sea of Vrabel, unfortunately for him. But yeah, in all likelihood, it's you're going to see him in New England next season. So long as Belichick's out of there. And I would venture to guess he's going to be. What his future is, I don't know yet. DB, you brought up possibility of him just staying on as GM, but again, we know his history with personnel issues over these past several years. I don't see that happening. A lot of other jobs open as I'm going to kind of go down the list here, but, he's rumored to maybe go to the Chargers. All kinds of possibilities on that front. I imagine we'll touch on that more in the off season, or if something comes out this week, I imagine we'll touch on that. DB had a point there.
I just got to ask you guys because it just popped in my head. If the trade talk to get traded to a team that you played for the coach that you played for to go to the team you're on or the team you're coaching now, how interesting of a story would that be? Like that.
Yeah. I mean, they're not trading for Bill Belichick.
No.
Like Bill Belichick will not be a part of that transaction. It would just be Vrabel to his former team.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
For probably cash and maybe some draft picks and stuff. But we don't have to worry about that now. And I think pretty quickly we're not going to have to worry about Bill Belichick being the head coach and GM of the New England Patriots. And I'll tell you right now, he's not staying on as GM for Mike Vrabel as coach. Not happening.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. These next couple, I think I kind of know the answers to, so I'll get them out of the way fairly quickly. Brandon Staley.
Way overdue. Should have been fired. Right. Been hired at all, but should have been fired after calling that timeout to let the Steelers into the playoffs.
Yeah.
A lot for that. That was a nice gift, but he overstayed his welcome. So we'll see where he ends up. I don't think it's going to be in the NFL right off the bat next year, but if it is somewhere next year, it's going to be, I think, the Los Angeles Rams on Sean McVay's staff.
Overdue. But offense coordinator, I think, like I said, Nate, prior, I think he'd be good. He cannot manage a team. I do not see him being a head coach. I don't want to say never, but Tomlin, never. That's never.
Yeah. Never say never, but never.
He's the coordinator at best, I think, but position group coach at worst, and that's not make a living for sure. Those guys do pretty well for themselves. And like I mentioned on this program before, this guy went from John Carroll to NFL head coach in about 5 to 6 years. So, good for his, rise through the ranks, but it was time to come down a peg, I think. Glad he got his bag, got his to prove it. But no, he shouldn't have been there that long, I don't think.
Yeah, I can't really add anything more to that point. After he called that timeout, helped the Steelers get in the playoffs. Of course, I was ecstatic. I wanted to buy a Daniel Carlson jersey, but I couldn't wear that silver and black at any time of year. But it is what it is. Yeah, long overdue. We kind of all said it as he was getting fired. And another guy we might have a similar opinion about, guy that was in the same division. Josh McDaniels got fired from the Raiders. And I think I know the answers to this one, but I'll let you guys give a little spiel.
Yeah, should have never been hired. Henchman comes to mind as the right word to describe him. Groupthink Nepotism, all those sort of adjectives and
All the above.
descriptors, all the above. All those sorts of words, nouns, adjectives, the whole should have never been hired, but long overdue fired. He completely gutted what was built for him, what I thought was a pretty solid football team, not a perfect team. Do I think he inherited the best team of all time? Gruden style, maybe argue Tomlin style to cower. No, certainly not. There was missing pegs, but he gutted it. He got rid of people that shouldn't have been gotten rid of. He changed the personnel. He made weird trades. He controlled everything. His little Napoleon syndrome freaking head can't take anybody else telling him what to do. I understand because I have it too, but not to that extent. So, yeah, long overdue. I hope this man never is a head coach again in the NFL because he's proven twice that the only way he can win is cheating, and I don't want that in this league. And at best, I think that he is going to go back to being the henchman for Bill Belichick wherever he ends up, a special advisor, analyst, position group coach, because he is a nepotism baby, because that's the only way he can succeed is just being in the groupthink environment that is the New England Patriots. We have our own with the Steelers, but they have a worse one with New England. So, yeah, that's how I feel.
Overdue. I said it when he's just the way it all went down with Derek Carr. I don't like a guy comes in after I don't know how many years Derek stayed with the Raiders. I think it's probably 7 or 8 years, I'd say, right, boys?
Yeah, 8 years, I think.
And you come in there and you just screw up that whole relationship. And you can say Mark Davis made the decision and all that, but no, I don't have any time. And also, he is Patriots through and through, and I can't stand the Patriots. So
yeah,
he's the closest thing to Bill Belichick, just in younger form, not like his son making those faces on the sideline.
Good old Steve Belichick. I love it. Well, you guys kind of got into the schematics and the analytics of the situation. I'll get in kind of to the public opinion of things. I know what all Raider fans were doing in their head when Josh McDaniels got fired, and that's what Josh McDaniels did after beating the Patriots for the first time. He was doing it. They were doing this, pumping their fist up and down the sidelines. Hallelujah. Holy shit. Where's the Tylenol?
Right.
I was happy for all Raider fans in that moment, and I have never been happy more for Raider fans in that moment. Maybe other than when, like I said, Carlson buried that field goal, got the Lurs in the playoffs, but I was more happy for the Lurs. But anyway, McDaniels, yeah, long overdue. Should never be a head coach in the NFL again. Like you said, Nate, position coach, analyst, coordinator at best. No shame in that at all. He just cannot he cannot run a franchise anywhere other than into the ground as head coach. And another one, then I'll get onto the one that we'll probably have the most fun with. Frank Reich. I know we've talked a lot about him on this program, how he maybe hasn't gotten a fair shake with each of his head coaching stints. And, of course, that Carolina Panthers organization right now, we see what's going on with them, David Tepper throwing beers on Jaguars fans and all the rest. Frank Reich, was it too fast, too slow, or right on time?
Nate, I'm going to boil over. Let me take this real quick. That guy is one of the best schematic, I'm going to use Tomlinisms here, analytic coaches. And he's been put in the situations and franchises that just have no idea what's going on in the front office. And I really think he could be a head coach in the right system. He's just never been given a chance. And it drives me nuts. Absolutely drives me nuts. When Jeff Saturday took over that position and it just kind of looked like a circus there that anybody could just go in there. No, he's never. And the Panthers owner, whatever, owes him mileage for the plane ride down there to meet with them and all this crap, because that was terrible. Waste of time.
I will say this too before I let you go, Nate. The Panthers have had more head coaches in the last 2 years than the Steelers have since my dad was born. I'll just give you that. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah. I think they fired him right on time. They did him a favor. He probably, I don't know why they hired this man to begin with. He was in the worst situation ever. Hopefully they pay him handsomely. I don't know if we'll see him coach in the NFL ever again. He's in his 60s, done pretty well, done pretty great things. If he comes back, it's probably as a QB coach, maybe an offensive coordinator role. But yeah, he didn't really get the fairest of shakes. But I'm going to say this: he had a pretty good team, I thought, with Indianapolis, and I don't think they were executing to the same level that they needed to. Yeah, they've had some changes and stuff. And Jeff Saturday certainly exposed that last season team, but remember that team had a lot of injuries too. Right. So Steichen has turned that crew around quickly. I mean, heck, they were, a minute away, one score away from making the playoffs. Unfortunately that didn't happen, but back to Frank Reich. I think it's going to be tough for him to get back if, he wants to get to be a head coach. I don't think he'll ever be one again. I don't know if he wants to be one again. So here's my wish for him. I wish him incredibly well. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a really good guy. But this David Tepper guy, figure out what you need to do. If you need to coach the team yourself to be that micromanageable, then do it, because this is ridiculous. You are firing coaches left and right for the Carolina Panthers and for Charlotte FC, and you just can't handle it. I mean, this is unfreaking believable. You're like a spoiled toddler. You're the second richest owner in American sports, and you can't make up your mind. Figure it out. Pick someone and give them a freaking chance to do something. And listen to your NFL personnel on who they think you should draft and who they think you should sign. Because I'll tell you right now, the people in the Carolina Panthers organization, they did not want Bryce Young. And do I think we should shut the door on Bryce Young being good already? No. Heck no. There's too many things that kid has stacked against him. But everybody who evaluated talent around him said, I'm telling you right now, CJ Stroud is better. And certainly he is proving that. And I think he's going to continue to prove it, by the way. So, yeah, I feel bad for Frank Reich. Not his fault, though, but I think they fired him right on cue, only because he needed to expose himself, Tepper did, to what an idiot he is. And he needed to move on to his cherry-picked whatever person he's going to put in these roles. And my only hope for who they pick next is that they can withstand working for that moron. And he also gives them like 3 years minimum to try to get something freaking done. I mean, come on. The way that they wanted to play football this season was so ass backwards from the way they played it last year. They ran the freaking ball. And then you signed Miles Sanders to a bag. You keep Chuba Hubbard, who is a very good backup. Heck, ended up being the starter for most of the season because he was the better player, truthfully. And then you go, let's throw the ball to nobody. And let Bryce just get hammered and throw it to Adam Thielen 3 yards from the line of scrimmage 125 times. And then let Mingo run streaks the whole season and never catch the ball because Young has 2 seconds to throw, instead of just continuing to run the football like you did last year. And I understand each year it warrants different things, but you had bread and butter last year. Carolina went from firing their coach to almost making the playoffs with Wilkes because they played insane defense and they ran the ball. And this year they're like, okay, let's pass it, go 3 and out, and let the offense of the other team run the entire game. Yeah. So, Frank Reich, I'm glad they did you a favor. Sorry to be long-winded, but it's just ridiculous. How stupid.
You're good. You're good. I think that's more of a reflection on Tepper as an owner and as a manager of an organization than it is on Frank Reich's coaching ability.
Absolutely.
My answer to this has changed over time. Initially, I thought they fired him too soon. Thought they should have let him ride out the season, see if they have something of value with the team that they had right now and with the Bryce Young and Frank Reich connection. But as we know now, and what has developed over the past 7-8 weeks with David Tepper and that Carolina Panthers organization, like you said, Nate, you couldn't have said it much better. It was a blessing in disguise in the best way possible for Frank Reich. I hope he finds a job somewhere in the NFL. I have a feeling he will. I have a feeling people are calling him right now, trying to get him to be either their OC or their QB coach or something. Frank Reich in football is a good thing. Trust me. And that's a guy that knows ball. Unfortunately, like I've alluded to on this program before, got the short end of the stick with these last two situations. With the Colts, he didn't really have that young, fresh QB to throw in there. You know, he had guys with essentially cement legs, just slinging the ball from the pocket on two-step dropbacks. But, you know, like I said, the guy knows ball. He'll find a job somewhere. DB looked like you wanted to say something.
Is there some – you guys are more knowing of this. Is there a way the league can step in here and say, you know, Jesus, man, as an owner, like, is there any restrictions in regards to the firing? Not even, or I guess you own the team, you have the rights, you can do whatever the hell you want. But,
pretty much. I mean, there really isn't, unless it's to the level of a Dan Snyder, and even that was unprecedented for the most part.
Right.
For the most, I mean, of course, there's the whole thing with Al Davis versus the NFL and that whole business. But for the most part, it's not in the NFL's best interest to mess with those that are giving them money and making them a shit ton of money. So pretty hands off on the owners. But at the same time, they did fine him like $300K, which I know is pennies to him. $300K for, you know, throwing the beer or whatever it was on the Jaguars fans, and being a bad representative of the league.
Yes.
In that sense, they can give him some repercussions. It's going to take a lot more and a lot longer of a time span, and a lot of really bad shit to come out over that time span for the NFL to do a whole lot about it.
I think things will come out in coming years, I hope.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I don't think it will. I don't think they'll do anything about him. If we can have, you know, the name that we don't speak of in Washington for 20 plus years, then guys.
I mean, I already said his name, but
I don't.
That's
Nate's
favorite guy. That's Nate's favorite guy.
No, how about it, huh?
Yeah, something like that.
Him and Marcus Gasol.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Favorite sports figures of all time. Marcus Gasol, guy that I won't even name.
Yep. I mean, at least you do say Marc Gasol's name, but yeah,
I do because of his years in the year in Toronto, year two in Toronto, the amazing career he had in Memphis, where he was the best player, but
right.
not with my Lakers. Nope. Wasn't a fit.
Well, we're gonna get back to football here. I got another name on the list, and then I got another name that I want to chat about briefly, and then I want to talk about, like I said, probably one of the biggest disappointments in the NFL this season. Last name on this list that got fired, and he got fired pretty much first thing Black Monday. Arthur Smith for the Atlanta Falcons. 3 years of 7-10. How about it? And how much have we talked about this guy on this show? I thought we were going to have more fun with Arthur Smith than we were with David Tepper, but, you know, here we are. Hell, we still might. Go ahead, fellas.
Arthur William Smith, definition
Mr.
of
FedEx himself.
Definition of mid as a head coach. 2 years of choking in a row. I think he thinks he's a little bit too smart for his own good. You know, you draft these fellas such as Kyle Pitts and Drake London, Bijan Robinson, very high.
Desmond Ridder.
and well, Desmond Ridder they didn't draft very high. I think they
not very high, but
they thought they were getting a steal with him. I still think he's a good kid, good player, but not probably your guy's spot starter. Maybe one, sort of a Marcus Mariota ceiling where he could start some games, maybe start the year as a starter for some places late in his career. But anyways, back to my point here. Arthur Smith, I think, was trying just to be the most cute head coach of all time and be like, look at who I have. He was that person in fantasy. It's like, well, look who I have. I have name recognition. And then just do nothing with it. You know what I mean? Hit all these players and you don't get them the ball. And it's like, can you please get him the ball? I think fantasy managers everywhere are like, how can you have this talented of a crew and then do the things that you're doing? And I don't care who the quarterback is. The quarterback hands the ball off to one of the players that should get the ball, and that should happen pretty easily. And a quarterback should be able to throw the ball towards a tight end in Kyle Pitts's magnitude, but they don't even throw it to him. They wouldn't even look or sniff his direction. And then poor Drake London, on the outside, he stood no chance this year with their schematic and game planning. So I'm glad this experiment's over. I don't care if you stockpiled, the greatest team ever. Arthur Smith would look at the 6th and 7th string reserve guys off the practice squad and be like, "Hey, you want to get a run in today?" And that's and the draft picks that he chose to go with and then not use correctly. I think a lot of people will agree with me. Atlanta's not that far away. I don't think.
No. Oh, hell no.
They got, two really stud running backs that can make a huge difference. That's at wide receiver. Obviously Drake London, Van Jefferson are very good, and a few others. And then obviously Kyle Pitts is just a shell of what he could be. I think he still has a lot of good football ahead. So really, it just comes down to, can we get a little bit better of a line, a better quarterback, veteran guy in the offseason, and maybe shore up our defense in ways. But this team was not that far away. I think just the guy leading them was just leading them in an endless loop of mediocrity, midness, average at best football. So it's good to see him, get another opportunity to coach somewhere else, and it's good for the Atlanta Falcons to fire their worst head coach in franchise history. And I'm not saying that biasly. I'm saying that because that's the numbers, and that's what they indicate. He had the worst start of any Falcons head coach in franchise history. So, yeah, it was time to move on. I think that the timing was right. I think they needed to give him this year for sure because they were close the previous 2 years too. But the third year is like, yeah, we're close again. And sorry, that's all you're going to get because you could have won this division, certainly. And
they could have won it in the last week of the season too, if the cards fell right.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they needed to win, and they didn't do that. And they were tied 17-17, and then proceeded to give up 31 unanswered points to lose the game. And they had a lot of opportunities throughout the season to beat teams they should have beaten. And of course, like we continue to say on this program, they just don't know if they're freaking good or not. And I'm telling you what, I might be the happiest person in the world now that we never have to hear about this. Are they good or not, Atlanta Falcons, for hopefully a while? Because that's been their MO for the last 3 seasons. Are they good or not? Nobody knows. Well, I think we determined they're not good for the 3rd year in a row, but it took till the last stinking game. So my hope is they have a head coach next year that says we're either good or we're bad game 1, so we can freaking tell and we can put our bets on them and know going forward. But like I said, don't think they're far away. So, yeah, I think it was good timing. He got some time, but yeah, mid is the right word to describe his tenure there, and we'll see what happens. He's an offensive coach, and it's an offensive league. I think he's going to get some more opportunities pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I agree with Nate on everything he said. I just it's a heck of a way to get punched in the mouth on Sunday, go across the field, tell the coach what the hell was that? That was bullshit. I forget the Saints coach.
We're going to talk about him in a second.
But Arthur, Yeah, he can't coach. He's like a Brandon Staley. I'm going to say it, Nate. He could be a coordinator somewhere, but I don't think he can lead the charge. No.
He's as weird as it sounds. Right now he might be worse than a Brandon Staley because at least Brandon Staley got to the playoffs.
Right.
But
Kyle Pitts.
Oh yeah, go
ahead. That right there is enough.
That's
enough. All I need to see. Bijan, that is enough. And Drake London, if he's given a chance and there's a system in place to get him involved, I feel he could be a difference maker. But Arthur just completely missed, and he'd rather go on Pat McAfee's and show and focus on his mustache and his Starbucks latte than game planning. So get him the hell out of there.
Yeah, I mean, what was the joke, Nate? We made in the group chat earlier. He might get shipped off to Tennessee, but he might be 2 days late because it's FedEx shipping.
Right.
That could very well happen. But no, you guys said it all. And Nate, you seem to be the expert on fired head coaches this week, and I'm digging each and every bit of it here. Name calling and all of it. Calling Arthur Smith mid is probably the most accurate thing you have easily said today, probably the most accurate thing you've said so far early in this year. But yeah, I think it was slightly overdue, but at the same time, I can see why you might not want to disrupt what was going on throughout the season there. And I said we were going to talk about this guy, I alluded to him a couple seconds ago, and I believe it was Adam Schefter that reported this. Dennis Allen, safe in New Orleans. What do we think about this, fellas? Of course, the Saints, they went 9-8, missed out on the playoffs, did not win the division nor get a wild card spot. And the Derek Carr era in New Orleans was, as you just said, Nate, you can probably describe this as very mid and inconsistent as well. So what do we think about Dennis Allen getting another shot next year?
I personally don't think he's the guy. But I'll say this. Derek Carr was too inconsistent for him in his system that he was running. So I'm hopeful that, and unfortunately I'm saying this, I am hopeful that they decide to go a different direction at quarterback and run one more season with Dennis Allen and see what happens. Because, my gosh, their offense is too stacked not to do something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it took Jamal Williams till week 18 to get in the end zone. And I know that was because of injuries and things. They moved him to fullback and all that, but like they didn't get to use him the way that they want to use him. They kept playing Carr because of, even with injuries, they had to go to Jameis a little bit, they had to throw Taysom more than they expected to at points too, even if it wasn't a lot. But yeah, I think they need to go get a quarterback. They won't draft one. The last one they freaking drafted in the first round was Arch Manning, believe it or not. Maybe they try that for once. This is one of the best quarterback drafts in a long time, so maybe they'll try that route. But I don't know. It's also possible that they try to run it back with Derek Carr. I wouldn't be shocked. Somehow that man continues to just hang on, despite what is excellent. I mean, absolutely excellent play at times, but horrendous play when he's not on. He is such an off and on quarterback, and it's very frustrating. And now I understand why, people that are Raiders fans keep saying, man, you just don't get it. He's so freaking inconsistent. He could be looking like a top 5 quarterback in the league one week, and then the next week he's looking like he shouldn't even be on the field. He's throwing interceptions, can't complete a pass. Footwork's all goofed up. They're on off schedule. So I don't know. I personally think they need to move off Derek Carr and let Dennis Allen have another shake at having a different quarterback there. But I personally think they need to draft one for once and not keep signing these Band-Aids, because they're not getting a Drew Brees. He's not available. That was a fluke to get Drew Brees. It was a fluke. They thought he was going to fail physicals, like a crack to see if he could still even play, and then he turned into a top 3 to 5 quarterback of all time. You're not going to get that on a silver platter. Like we keep saying with Big Ben, they don't grow on trees. They don't. But I'll tell you what they do grow out of more typically than free agency: the draft. The draft.
Yeah.
Especially the draft that has, I'm not exaggerating, 8 to 10 guys who I think are going to have between a decent to Hall of Fame career. I truly believe that. So that's how I feel about Dennis Allen. I think they probably, could move off him, but like he's safe, and if they're going to let him be safe, then they need to make him get a different quarterback.
Yeah. I guess you got to give him a pass with Derek Carr coming in. But he has one of the lowest winning percentage spells as head coaches in the league. That's a factor. I don't know. The Saints are just they're like the Falcons. Like that game they're just a similar team. They're there, but they're not. Then they're good games, and then there's bad games, and then they shut themselves. Oh, wow, Kamara broke off a big run. But, I mean, it's nonsense. He's fired next season if they don't have a good season.
Yeah.
Straight up. They can't. I don't know who's going to replace him, but who knows. But,
You guys are making my job very easy. You're saying all the things that I agree with, and you're saying all of the things, period. So I sincerely appreciate it. Dennis Allen getting another shot, like you said, Nate, potentially without Derek Carr. I can see why they'd want that to happen. They still have a very good defense that was largely intact throughout the season. They didn't have a whole lot of injuries on that side of the ball, and they were one of the better defensive units in the game, despite their offense not always helping them out that much. But yeah, when you have talents like Olave, Michael Thomas, and Kamara on offense, and you're not producing, who do you look at? You look at, in this case, number 4, Derek Carr. And I will apologize to every Raiders fan out there that's told me this, and I've disagreed with them. I'll admit it right now. Derek Carr, again, word of the week, mid. I'll admit it. I was wrong. You were right. And
Me too.
Mark your calendars, because I don't know when the next time I'm going to say, Raiders fans, you were right. I don't know when that's going to be.
Hopefully never.
Hopefully never, but there comes a point in time where you just have to, where the facts are the facts and it's indisputable, and in this case it is. So one last one I want to touch on, and like I said, one of the bigger disappointments in the NFL this season, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who started their run 8-3. We thought they were an offensive juggernaut and pretty solid on defense, leading the AFC South for a majority of the first half of the season, if not all the first half of the season. And then they fall off. They finish 9-8. And this past week was the pièce de résistance, losing to the Tennessee Titans on the road with a playoff spot on the line for many teams. It was a win and in situation for them. And they didn't get their butts handed to them, but they lost by 8 to a pretty bad, I will say, and misconstrued Titans team. So as of today, Mike Caldwell, the defensive coordinator, and a lot of his staff were let go. And we were talking way earlier in the season, a defense for the Jaguars team was a strength for them. Turns out, back half of the season really hurt them. They ended up finishing 17th in scoring defense, 22nd in total defense, 26th in passing defense. They did force 27 turnovers, which is good for 4th in the NFL. And then Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen, the edge rusher Josh Allen, finished with the second most sacks in the NFL behind, of course, Mr. TJ Watt. Thing is, too, with this Jags team, down the stretch, their offense did not help their defense out at all. I believe the Jags, they ended up finishing with, of course, Lawrence, he threw a couple picks in this last game, and they just let the Titans run all over him. King Henry, in his final game as a Titan, 153 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Probably his final game as a Titan, and what a hell of a way to go out if you're King Henry there. But anyway, back to this defense, or back to the offense, not helping the defense in the back half of the season. I mean, we saw the best and the worst of the likes of Travis Etienne. The Jags ended up finishing in the bottom 10 in the league in rush offense, and I believe they had the 5th most turnovers on offense as well. And going down that stretch too, only 2 of their final 5 losses were by a possession. Some of those losses included a 30-12 road loss against the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then a 23-7 home loss against the Ratbirds, which, we know the Ratbirds, they were going to beat anybody in sight, but still, when you have a playoff spot on the line down the stretch, you have the division in hand for most of the season. It was yours to lose, and you lose it. It's kind of the way these things go. And unfortunately for Mike Caldwell and his staff, he's Gonzola. And now there's some question surfacing of, is Trevor Lawrence the guy? If you look at the stats, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He is 20-30 as the Jags starter. And I know that factors in the Urban Meyer season. But other than that, Jags are only 1 game above 500 when he's in there. And I know, yes, he was dealing with a shoulder injury for most of the back half of the season. But at the same time, at what point do you get content with mediocrity? And at what point does Doug Peterson get on the hot seat? I would say it's as early as the start of next year. But yeah, just kind of wanted to touch on that pretty big development down in Jacksonville. We thought that they were going to be really good. People were picking them to maybe go to the AFC title game, maybe even sneak into that, but just ended up not working out for them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you didn't touch on that didn't fit is they had a defense that has a better front than they do secondary. And
this is also true.
What did Jacksonville do on offense? I know this sounds weird, but what did they do on offense? They passed the ball. So here's what happens. You pass the ball, you score fast, or you're off the field fast. So you're either scoring relatively quickly on bomb plays, which they had several of them this year. They did. When they were clicking, that was one of the best offenses in the NFL when they were clicking. But when they weren't, they were one of the worst.
Yes.
But here's what it's down to me. You have a Pro Bowl running back in Travis Etienne, and they just didn't give him the football. So what you did was you exposed a defense with a good front and made teams pass on them more often.
Yep.
That's what I think that they did. I listened to something that Greg Olson said a few weeks ago, and it really stuck with me. He said the Cowboys have a pass-friendly defense. Why? Because they score fast so that teams don't run on them because they don't have a great front and they're thin at middle linebacker. And especially now with Leighton Vander Esch, not in the mix and may never play again. Gosh, I hope that's not the case. Personally, one of my favorite players in the NFL to watch. He's an absolute machine at middle linebacker. But that's what I think the problem is that nobody talks about. It's not just the X's and O's, the stats, the execution, this and that. You have to have an offense that matches your defense. And I think that's why they decided to part ways with their coordinator. They need someone in there who can shoe up the secondary to complement what I think is one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. They proved that this season. So they just shore up that secondary. And I think going into next year, Doug Peterson needs to go, all right, we need to get Travis Etienne the football a little more. We got all kinds of talent all over the field. Heck, 6th-round pick Parker Washington, I understand he did about next to nothing for about 10 to 12 weeks, but the last, 6-7 games of the season, he had a chance to play, and this kid can be pretty good. And I'm not just saying that because he went to Penn State. I'm saying that because all it took was one injury to Christian Kirk, and the dude got a shot. He's made the most of it. He's had some, pretty good games here and there. But what it comes down to truly is you got to have an offense that matches your defense. That's a huge thing. That's what they got to bring to the table in this next hire. And then I think they have to run the football more or get more touches to Travis Etienne. That's what I truly think is missing. And everybody else, if Ingram's going to get pissed or Kirk's going to get pissed or Ridley or Washington or Brenton Strange or whoever else on that offense is going to be pissed because their targets are down, are you really going to be pissed if you're not sitting at home come January next year? Probably not.
No.
So that's what I think it comes down to. Doug Peterson has to know who he's hiring or help hire in that defensive coordinator role. And then he has to look at that tape and say, look, we have Travis Etienne, who is a stud, and we're not using him effectively. How can we find ways for him to get the ball 4 to 8 more times a game? That's all it's going to take. That's all it takes to me. They didn't use him enough. And I'll tell you what, anybody who drafted him in fantasy or put anytime touchdowns on him or rushing yardage on him in bets, they're frustrated as crap this year because he was so freaking underwhelming. And truly, it was just touches, man. Touches. They have to get the ball in this guy's hands.
Mhm.
And you saw what happens when they didn't have him and they had James Robinson. I know James Robinson had a really good start to his career, but then Travis Etienne came on the scene the last couple of years, and he's improved the offense, but then they went away from him. Why do that? He supplements your offense so much. And I think those are the two gaps. So, Peterson, you need to figure this out because if you don't, you're going to be done soon.
Yeah. And I got to throw it out there for you boys. I'm not sold on Trevor Lawrence. All the collectors and card guys and everybody, we got to get T-Law. I don't. I don't find him. Trevor knows my opinion. I'm not going to throw those out there right now, but I just I don't believe in Trevor Lawrence. I don't. Mm-mm.
Well, I hope he does well. I mean, it's enough the fact that we share a name that I should root for the guy. So
I think you're the better Trevor.
I hope he works out, and he has the hair that I want to. I've established that on this program. I want to grow the flowing locks or the fucking curly mullet. I don't care.
All right. Yeah.
I want long hair, but I can't. I can't do it. I can't.
Hit us up in the comments with your hair care and see how Trevor, help Trevor grow that baby out.
Send me your volume producing products, please.
Your horse shampoo, the locks flowing.
Or it's shampoo, get the locks flowing. Side note, among the coordinators and staff fired from the Jags on the defensive side was cornerbacks coach Deshae Townsend. Yes, that Deshae Townsend.
Ooh.
And safeties coach Cody Grimm. Only Roy Segrist, outside linebacker or defensive line coach Rory Segrist, outside linebackers coach Bill Shuey, and defensive quality control coach Patrick Riley were retained on that defensive staff. But yeah, that's kind of all I had on the NFL coaching side. The next thing that I had was national championship, discussing that. I don't know if we had any more NFL to discuss before we do pick 'em, or.
I just got to throw out there. I think it's very unfair to that coaching staff. If your offense, these last 3 to 5 weeks of the season, that defense I felt was on the field more than. I mean, it was. I wouldn't say as bad as the Steelers, but pretty damn close. Yeah. I think it's very harsh, boys, and we've said it, and I know people out there that watch this. Your offense doesn't stay on the field. Your defense is going to blow the game. That's just the way of life. And I honestly think the hardest side of the ball is defense, and I think a lot of people in every sport. So I think it's very harsh to just clear house. But the real problem was your offense sucked. I don't know.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to add is, Christian Kirk went down and their offense was horrible. So that shows how much faith they had in him.
Yeah.
I remember when that man signed a 4-year, $84 million contract, and I was like, what? What are you doing? A
lot of people were, yeah. The majority of people inside and outside the NFL, really.
Yeah, and he's proven that he's a top, 10 to 20 receiver in the National Football, no question. So their offense suffered. When that playmaker, on the inside and, a little bit on the outside, mostly he's an inside receiver, went down. But like I said, they didn't adjust to that. They just kept throwing it and throwing it and throwing it. When you have ETN in the backfield, and then that changes how much time your defense spends on the field. You're off schedule. You're not playing the way that your defense was used to playing. So I think that injury was huge, and I knew it was going to be bad. And certainly Trevor Lawrence missing a game, playing through injury didn't help either along the way. missing a game and a half, I think, rather. But yeah, he was not very good to finish the season, like DB said. He was missing passes left and right. But truthfully,
Yeah.
I still believe in him. I do. He needs a little bit more time. You get rid of the Urban Meyer year, and he's been a different player. But yeah, he crumbled the last season this year. It was a shame to see that because I think he's a stand-up guy. I really like him as a person. I think he's won at every level, except the NFL. I mean, he has, one playoff appearance and a playoff win and stuff. But yeah, he's lived up to every expectation that everybody's had for him, except he's kind of still being determined as what we think he's going to be in the NFL. I think his upside is unbelievable. But yeah, another thing to point out, the Jaguars, I don't believe have been in the playoffs back-to-back years in their franchise history, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
So they were due to collapse, and what truly needs to happen is that organization needs to find stability. And that's the guy I think that's stable, and they're making him unstable because of their personnel decisions and game planning and such. But yeah, he deserves a little bit of the fault too. He was missing passes left and right. He looked like a guy that is sitting on the bench for a team in Pittsburgh that I don't particularly like. Kenny Pickett. He looked like him out there missing throws left and right over people's heads. Couldn't hit a guy, throwing it behind him. So yeah, it must be the flow this year. The flow doesn't get it done at quarterback. You actually have to hit people. You don't just get to have the hair and get to dictate where the pass goes. You actually have to hit it, no matter what your hair looks like. So yeah, that's what I'd like to say to add on to that. But yeah, but both sides are at fault, DB, to me. So
yeah, and I have to throw two out there. To the guy that ripped that terrible towel from that older gentleman,
Wingard,
Myron Cope from the grave, screwed your season. So God bless Myron Cope.
Yep,
All right.
3-6. They waved
Oh, yeah.
at a party with them. So there you go.
Yeah.
I said this on Instagram. I probably should have made it a video. Do not fuck with the terrible towel.
Don't do it.
I'll say it again, and I know I've already dropped a couple F-bombs on this show. I'll drop another one for you. If I were to get fined, I'd be Mark Cuban right now. Donate it to charity, huh? Do not fuck with the terrible towel.
Don't do it.
Bad things happen to those that fuck with the terrible towel. Just ask the Titans. Just ask the Bengals. And now, just ask the Jaguars.
Not worth it.
It's like some sacred ritual. It's But boys, on to pick'ems here, and then I know Trevor, I definitely want to hear your guys' opinion on last night's national championship. I'm very excited. I did watch some of it. I didn't watch most of it because Michigan started doing well, and I got sick to my stomach.
That's about when I stopped watching it too. Was when they made it 27-13. I'm like, eh.
Yeah,
but anyway, pick'ems.
Pick'ems. There's a lot of variables going into these games, boys. I think everybody is very excited. If they're not watching now, they're going to really want to see my opinion on the Bills and Steelers game. Don't worry, I have it for you. But Cleveland, but the Browns and Texans. I think this is going to be actually, and I don't mean this disrespectful to all the other fan bases, but I think this is going to be one of the most interesting games. I think.
Oh, yeah.
I really would love to see Joe Flacco not make it further, but we'll see. But I honestly, spread's 2.5. Browns are favored right now on FanDuel, and the over and under is 44.5. I'm going to take the Texans. I want CJ Stroud to get the flowers he deserves. He's rookie of the year. After this game, I don't know who they play or who they would play, but I really want them to get this one. And it's also in Houston, and that city deserves it. After all the shit that has gone on there, natural disasters, and Andre Johnson fighting whatever the guy's name was from the Titans on the field.
Cortland Finnegan.
David Carr, Matt Schaub eras. Jesus, the city deserves it. So I'm going Texans.
I'm going Texans too. I really liked the Browns a couple weeks ago. I think here's the unfortunate part. I think sitting their people was something that's going to slow them down. And I know that Cowher was on, the NFL Today and said, no, these guys are professional athletes, yada, yada, yada. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I certainly agree with him. He knows best. He was one, and he coached them, and he analyzes them for a living, and I don't. But I think the Texans are hot right now. They looked pretty decent against the Colts, and truthfully, if they can put up some points and Joe Flacco turns the ball over, that's going to be their path to victory. I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to get a pass rush with Will Anderson and crew, and Flacco's going to start coughing it up left and right, and he's going to show his age. And this little dream run by the Browns is going to end dreadfully for them. But I think the path to victory for the Browns for me is continuing to run the football and hitting David Njoku across the middle. That to me is a magic formula for success. I don't know what kind of magical connection that Njoku and Flacco have, but I'm here for it because Njoku was an unlocked potential for years, and this guy's on fire right now. So good for that guy. Good for Flacco to kind of get a rejuvenation in his career. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Texans. I just have a gut feeling about it. They're at home, coming off a huge win last week. They showed out in Houston. I think they're going to show out again, and let's see if the brakes kind of fell off the wagon with the Browns and sitting people because I think they peaked too early. We're going to see if I'm right.
This is a very intriguing game in large part there's not a whole lot of playoff experience on either side of the ball here. And I think you could reasonably say that this could be a sloppy game, even though it is an NRG stadium, has a retractable roof, weather's not a concern. Pressure of the moment, we know how it gets to some of these guys. And where the Browns have one big advantage in playoff experience is at the quarterback spot with Joe Flacco. They still have a run game. They still have a defense. And, of course, nothing against C.J. Stroud in the season he's had. I've said it from day one. He was the most pro-ready quarterback coming into this class. He's proven that.
Definitely.
He's proven that, and he's probably a lock for Rookie of the Year, period. Right. Puka Nakua's records aside, he's definitely deserving of it too, but Stroud just had too damn good of a season. I'm going to go with the Browns here. As a Steelers fan, it pains me to say that, but leadership is important. And leadership in tight spots like this, and this is going to be a close game. That's not a question. This is going to be a very close, very tight game. But I think what it comes down to is the Browns being able to control the ball and Joe Flacco's playoff experience coming in handy. I think the Browns keep it going. I think they move on to the next round.
Okay.
Yeah. Can't argue that. That's their path to victory.
It's two and a half point spread. It's going to be tight. It's going to be tight.
I have to say too, boys, and I don't mean to keep prolonging every single segment we do here, but do you feel though having Joe sit at the age 39? I would have liked to see him maybe just play the first half. I'm not saying the guy's joints are almost dust, but I don't know.
I know. Yeah. Well,
you see what I'm saying?
You got to think about it too. He came off the couch in the middle of the season and has thrown 13 touchdowns and has led the Browns to however many wins he's led them to. I think it's like 4 and 5 games or something like that. And he's obviously led them to a prominent playoff spot here.
Right.
I mean, granted, yeah, they're on the road. They weren't going to catch the Ratbirds. That nobody was. Nobody was going to catch the Ratbirds in that division. They were always going to play a road playoff game, especially with the injuries that they had dealt with throughout the season. But it could. I've seen it go both ways, and I've seen the naysayers go, oh, sitting people doesn't work. But then I've seen teams that sit people, and it does work. It goes both ways. Right. And I think it's going to go the Browns' way this week.
If it was colder weather, Nate, here I go with my stupid running, pushing this in here. But hotter weather, you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. So
this is true. That's it. The joints aren't going to be struggling to move. So it'll be fine.
So another game, Chiefs Dolphins spreads 4. Chiefs are favorited right now with the line. Again, this is Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, beautiful people out there. Do not put bets in right now. Okay, cannot stress that enough. Over and unders 44.5. The Dolphins showed me something. They showed me that they were turned into sushi against the Bills. You were given 3 turnovers. You dropped it. I'm going Chiefs, and I hate that. I hate Chiefs Kingdom. But if it was in Miami, I would have maybe swayed more to the Dolphins. But Arrowhead in the playoffs, it's a very dangerous area. So I'm going to go Chiefs, and I will take the spread on the Chiefs at 4.
Yeah, I think the rest favors the Chiefs. That's a team I do think it favors. Getting Mahomes a little bit of rest, Kelsey, a couple other guys, parts of their defense.
Yeah.
They still got it how to win against the Chargers and Easton Stick and Jeff Smith, whatever the crap their names are. We're probably not going to be talking about them much more going forward. I think that they're going to have some different men in positions next year.
Yeah.
However, I'm with you, DB. I think the Chiefs, they're going to be tough in the playoffs, like always. Mahomes is a different animal in these NFL playoffs. He's proven that. And the Dolphins are struggling big time. They have so many injuries around. Mostert running back is obviously one. Jalen Waddle's been hurt. Hill's been hurt. Both of their starting defensive ends, and now their third string defensive end is hurt. Xavier Howard's been hurt. Their starting corners are hurt. So this is a banged up football team. This is also a football team that has one win against a team with a winning record, and they play terrible on the road. And also they're going into Arrowhead where it's going to be incredibly cold, and this is a speed sort of team. And, I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
And truthfully, I think that they're going to have a debate in Miami. I think they're going to have a debate. Not McDaniel, but I think Tua Tagovailoa.
Right.
A few weeks ago, an MVP candidate, I thought he was going to win the thing. And now we're going to question if they're going to maybe give him one more year or maybe even move off him because, he's at the end of his rookie contract. And I think there's a chance that they think that they might be able to upgrade there. There's going to be some people to draft. There's going to be some free agents available. I don't think they will. I think they're going to give him one more year, but certainly he hasn't played amazing down the stretch. He turns the ball over a ton. He's a chucker at the moment. Sometimes he looks like amazing accuracy, but right now he looks like he's chucking, and he has that habit. It looks like he gets in these spells chucking and trying to force it, and that's what he was doing against Buffalo. So, DB, I'm with you. I think the Chiefs cover that. I think they're going to take care of business, and the Dolphins just collapsed again. They started the year hot last year. Injuries again, and not enough depth, not enough experience, both at coaching, I think, and also personnel, not enough depth. So, I'm with you. Chiefs, as much pains me.
Yeah.
It's been quite the roller coaster for the Dolphins over these past 3 years. I mean, 2 years ago, we're talking about them starting 1-7, 1-6, whatever it was, and then them almost making the playoffs. Then last year, they start out hot, like you said, Nate, and then they get into the playoffs, but they do get beaten by the Bills, albeit in a pretty good effort against a Bills team that was still reeling from the whole DeMar Hamlin situation and all of that business. That Bills team dealt with more than most football teams have to deal with.
Definitely.
And then this year, we see the Dolphins falling apart here in December. They're 2-3 in December. And they just lost to, I would argue, the hottest team in the NFL right now in the Buffalo Bills at home. I don't know how people are going to pick the Dolphins in this one, other than they just pull it out of their ass. All signs are literally pointing toward the Chiefs. And yes, we're going to see Chiefs Kingdom do that stupid chop thing. It makes you want to chop everyone's arm off in the audience, but they're going to do the chop thing on the way to a wild card victory, I believe. They just have the team that wins these grinded out type of games.
Yeah.
Since the likes of like Tyreek Hill and Juju Smith have left, they've adapted their offense to fit what they are as a team. And I think it's going to be another game. It's going to be very tight, and the Chiefs are going to have to run the hell out of the ball and keep the ball out of Tua's hands in order for them to win. Side note, two, supposed to be 2 degrees in Kansas City. 2, you heard me, 2. 2 degrees, cloudy and windy. And cold weather kills speed, boys.
Yeah.
And it's going to kill the Miami Dolphins.
I'm going to add a caveat to this. You boys might disagree. I see Kelsey getting 2 touchdowns this game. Just want to throw that out there.
I say he gets 1. I'll put anytime touchdown on that.
Okay.
I say he gets 1. I think they get the 1 passing touchdown, and then that's it. It's to Kelsey. I think the rest are rushing touchdowns to either Pacheco or even hell, they might toss a couple to McKinnon out of nowhere. We'll see.
Right. The game of the hour, boys. We got the old Pittsburgh Steelers playing against the Buffalo Bills. I don't know. I want to talk to FanDuel representative. I want to know where these lines are coming from. I want to know how we got to this spread. 10. And the Bills are favored very favorably. Over unders 36.5. I will tell you this. Josh Allen all season. I shit my pants every time I watch him. I don't know what he's going to do with the ball. If he's on, Steelers are screwed. If that's the Josh Allen we get, he's on. He's hitting, he's hitting his throws and he's running the ball and yeah. But if he's going ahead and throwing bazookas into the end zone, halfway out of bounds, stuff like that, I say Steelers. You know where I'm going. I'm going to pick the Steelers. But the injuries here, boys, and I'm making sure because I know the Bills fans are going to hop on me. This is from BuffaloBills.com, okay? Bills Mafia, so calm down here. Gabe Davis is potentially going to be out. Ty Johnson is dealing with a concussion. And also Tyrell Dotson, who's a fill-in for, I believe, Vaughn, if I'm not mistaken, or one of the outside. I think Russo.
Vaughn, I believe.
Yeah. He's out with a shoulder. So 3, and then Rasul Douglas left the game as well with a knee. So there's potential. They're already down and out with injuries. And then now the guys that they have coming in here are potentially going to be out. So I would not go so far against the Steelers. Mason Rudolph is hot as well. If we get our run game going, the Bills are going to be shaking their heads and not knowing what the hell's going on. I'm going Steelers all the way. Jesus Christ. Steelers all the way. And I'm going to take the Steelers by 2.5.
Oh. Well, I love your enthusiasm, DB. Mike Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game in 8 years.
This is our year, dude.
2016 was the last time we won a game. Playoff game.
And I'll tell you what, I think that it was a cute little run that we're on. I hope that I'm wrong about it, DB. I really do. I'm the pessimist of the group. I admit it. I truly do. Last week I picked the Ravens at the time, and then they sat people, and I changed my pick. And I'm sure people go, "Oh yeah, anybody can say that." No, I did. I have the proof to say that I did.
On video.
Right. So, yeah, I think that it's going to be a tighter game than 10.5. But I think that the Bills just have a dynamic in their offense that's so insane that I don't think Pittsburgh's defense is healthy enough to withstand it. They're not good with TJ. They're not good without TJ in there, and Minka hasn't played in weeks. It's been a really difficult season for him. Their middle linebacking core has been an absolute mess. These poor guys, you got 7th and 8th string guys that have played in the month of December for this football team. And I think it's, a cute little run that we went on. And I just think that it seems very unsustainable to me. They will have to play like they did with Najee running the way that he did to win. I think that's the key.
Yes.
They really need to take advantage if Josh Allen does cough the football up for sure. But I just think there's too much talent on the Bills. I do think the Steelers will stick with them. It'll be less than a score game, but I think Buffalo's going to take it, unfortunately, and we're going to be this. So I'm kind of really preparing myself, DB. I certainly hope you're right, but I'm a realist.
I hope too.
Yeah. No, I'll just say this. I'll be saying a few Our Fathers and a few Hail Marys the night before the game, praying that the Steelers have a chance in this one. Because it might take some divine intervention for us to pull this one out against, like I said earlier, one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the NFL right now. Even though, like we said, Josh Allen hasn't gone, what is it, the last 8 games without a turnover, something along those lines. And again, crappy weather, rainy, possibly snowy, freezing temperatures. Going to be a hell of a grinded out game, boys. It's going to be some long drives coming. I hope you're ready for some smash mouth football, because that's probably what's going to happen. The way the Steelers win this game, and I said it earlier, run the football, keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands, and we need multiple splash plays to go our way. Plain and simple. And I know I kind of might have led y'all astray into thinking I was picking the Steelers. I'm not. I am picking the Bills in this one, although I do think it will be inside of a 7-point game. I think it'll be a very, very tight game. But to me, the Bills, they learned, like I said, they learned how to play smash mouth football. Josh Allen is still 6'5", 260, or whatever the hell he is. He can still run over us if he needs to. And we're missing TJ.
Right.
I think we keep it close, and I think I don't necessarily believe in moral victories, but I think Steelers Nation gets a bit of one going into the offseason. Which, might leave more questions and answers going into that same offseason. But, I think we get a bit of a moral victory, but the Bills ultimately advance.
Fair enough. God, I hope they. Anyway,
I'll be praying. I'll be praying hard.
It's going to be a rough day in this house if the Steelers lose.
Yeah, it might be a rough week, might be a rough offseason.
So we got the Packers against the Cowboys, 7.5 spread on this, boys. Cowboys are favored and over unders 50.5. As much as I would love to see the old Green Bay Packers beat the Cowboys, I don't see that happening. There would have to be Dak would have to have a meltdown, and it could happen. But
he's done it before.
He's
done it before.
If it was, it's just they're at home. They're on this hot streak at home.
Undefeated at home this season, 8-0.
So and it pains me so bad to say the Cowboys, but yes, the Cowboys.
Yeah, I agree, DB. Cowboys, really good at home. Really explosive offense at home. They're a different team in Jerry world, unfortunately. There is one scenario in which I think the Packers could win, and you alluded to it. Dak has a meltdown.
Shits himself.
That's the biggest part of it. But the other part of it is they run the football down Dallas's throat with Aaron Jones. And think about what they've done the last 3 to 4 football games to win. Their path to victory has been, let's run it a ton.
Physicality.
Yep, physicality. And then it opens up Jordan Love to use his legs a little bit here and there. And then get Reed open in space and craft over the God. That has been. And if Dak turns it over and Green Bay can score early and they can milk that clock, that's their path. But it would be a huge shock, and that's their singular path to victory. The thing to me is Dallas, I think, has so many weapons. They're so explosive. They have a good balanced offense that they're going to have a little bit too much. And let's face it, the Green Bay Packers are one of the youngest teams to ever make the NFL playoffs. They're the youngest team in the NFL this year. So I think their average age is about 25 years old. This team isn't going anywhere anytime soon. They're going to be good for a while. Coach LaFleur is a great coach, great offensive mind. I do think that they have a little bit of stuff they can shore up in the offseason. I think they will. But, I think Dallas is favored in this game, rightfully so. And they're going to get to 9-0 and head into they're going to head out of the super wild card round into the wild card round, divisional round, whatever it is.
Yeah, as much as I hate to say the Cowboys are going to win, the Cowboys are going to win, and then they're going to host another playoff game, which they even might win that one and make the NFC Championship for all we know, depending on who they get as a matchup. But I will say this, Jordan Love has impressed the hell out of me. Literally every time that Red Zone puts the Packers game on, he's throwing a deep ball to Jordan Reed and connecting with him. I swear to God, that could be a connection to worry about in the years to come if you're in the NFC North. But ultimately, youth plays a factor, as I've alluded to with the Browns-Texans matchup, and home field advantage plays a huge factor, especially for the Cowboys this season. I do think there will be a decent bit of scoring in this game, much unlike the AFC contests. I think this one will be pretty high scoring. A lot of passing, a lot of dynamic receiver play. Cowboys take it, though. I will throw my money right now. I will take the over 50.5 on that. And I will say I'll give this one last thing to Dallas Cowboys fans before I shut up about them for hopefully the rest of the season. And then the rest of the offseason until draft time. But CeeDee Lamb, I will say, has a very, very, very strong case for Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. Dude's balling out.
Mm-hmm.
Dude is amazing. Like every time I look at his stat line, it's like 10 catches, 170 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I swear to God. I think he's gone his last 8 games with a touchdown.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah,
he's on an insane season, and throw some money on anytime touchdown for him. If the 2+ touchdowns is attractive, go after that too. I might go after that. I don't know, but Cowboys.
Yeah, we hit on that 2+ touchdown with him. He was just playing lights out. I'd love to see. I would really, just a caveat here. I haven't asked you a question in regards to other games. Mike McCarthy loses this game. Job in question here, boys.
Starting next season.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's on a very hot seat with the potential to be fired mid-season if they get off to a slow start.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's still a couple holes on that team that would warrant having a little bit more.
And Nate, you brought up Leighton Vander Esch, a fixture in that defense for a long time.
Yeah.
Lost him. And as a result, their front seven has kind of suffered against rushing teams. Yeah. But the Packers, they're not a rushing team per se. They utilize it well. But yeah, Mike McCarthy, hot seat, yes. Fired, not yet.
Yeah, and the other thing is they're missing Diggs in the secondary, and that's one of the best.
Correct.
One of the best takeaway guys in the league, and their defensive secondary,
absolute ball hawk,
great ball hawk. But yeah, no, they're missing those 2 guys on defense, making a little bit of a difference. I think he gets slightly more time if he loses this one, but I don't think he's going to lose this one.
Okay. And then a game that I'm very excited to watch, no matter the outcome of the Steelers and Bills game, Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions. Matt Stafford returns to the team that literally he played his heart out, was handed shit, goes out to LA, wins a goddamn Super Bowl, and that guy deserved it all the way. But that's a beautiful Cinderella story there, Matt. But I do not think you're going to beat your old team. I think the Lions win this. The spread's 3. Lions are favored, and over and under is 51.5. And I will take the over on this because I think it's going to be a back and forth game. I think Matt Stafford is literally going to play his fucking ass off, like all out. Goff, we'll see. I don't believe in that guy, but that's just me. But I go Lions.
I'm going Rams. I think Matthew Stafford's going to break the hearts of the Lions. The Lions fans are cursed. I don't understand it. It's a shame. It really is. I mean, I have nothing against these poor fans. Goodness, these sports fans in Detroit. Oh man, they're terrible. They're such good fans, and they're seeing their city crumble. Their sports teams are not doing well. It's a shame. I mean, we already know the Pistons are the worst team in basketball.
God.
The Lions have finally got good. They're hosting a playoff game for the first time in 3 decades. They win the division for the first time in 3 decades. The first time they won the NFC North in their franchise's history. The Detroit Red Wings are not very good on the ice, and then Detroit Mercy men's basketball, probably the worst team in NCAA Division I as well. I don't think they've won a game yet. I had to throw that little one in there too. Sorry, Detroit. Sorry you're going through all these things, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get any better. I think it's going to get worse here. I think Detroit is going to lose another playoff game. I think Sean McVay is going to find out a way to absolutely expose that Detroit Lions defense that's been horrible the last 2 months of the season. Now they got CJ Gardner-Johnson back. However, he's playing hurt.
Yes.
He might be coming back playing rushed. And certainly they have given up their fair share of points for sure. So I think that they're going to have a very balanced game plan from Sean McVay with Kyron Williams running the ball, Puka, Cooper Kupp, Higbee, et cetera on offense. And Stafford has had a nice bounce back year. We'd probably be talking about him higher as comeback player of the year if the Hamlin situation doesn't happen, if Tua doesn't get concussed 2 times terribly, if Baker doesn't have an amazing year with the Bucks when nobody thought he was going to, if Flacco doesn't have a Cinderella jackpot redemption with the Browns, he'd certainly be up there for comeback player of the year to me too. But I think the Rams, I'm not counting out McVay. That dude is smart, and I'll tell you what, I just don't think the defense can stop them. I think that's going to be a huge part of it. But I do agree, DB, shootout potential. So I'm excited for this one. One of my most anticipated games of the playoffs for sure. So I'm going to go Rams and probably an upset for what some people are saying.
Yes.
That would be, Lions favored by 3. Well, it's my hottest take of the year.
It was.
And I got to stick behind it, boys. Lions will win a playoff game this season. The curse was lifted by Peyton Manning himself. The curse is off of that stadium. It's off the Lions. McVay, fantastic coach. Rams have had a bit of a resurgent season, and a lot of good pieces have come forward for them. You mentioned a couple of them, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, which, I love Kyron Williams doing well in former Notre Dame. If people didn't know that. I always got to stroke my own ego with that. But Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, they're going to light the place up. I'm taking the over as well. Big old back and forth contest between NFC foes and a bit of a shootout, a bit of a QB battle. I would not be surprised if this turns into one of the epic QB battles of the decade. I would not be surprised at that at all. I almost forgot Sam Laporta. How could I forget Sam Laporta? I've been stroking my own ego with that one for the better part of the season as well.
Yes.
Lions all the way. They win 1 playoff game.
I'm gonna hate to break it to you though, but Sam Laporta got hurt, and
did he get hurt?
He might not be playing. So that's another part of the wrinkle in there that I forgot to mention. So I apologize, but Sam Laporta.
Don't apologize. I should have known that coming in.
And I think that's going to take their offense out of rhythm. However, fair enough with Amon-Ra St. Brown. The dude had an unbelievable season.
How was that guy snubbed from the Pro Bowl? I don't know how the hell that happens.
Yeah, it's because he plays for Detroit. Seriously, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I remember coming on this program and saying I think if there's anybody that could be close to, Amon-Ra St. Brown, it would be, or to Tyreek Hill, be Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it was him. And I think we mentioned CeeDee Lamb, and certainly he's lived up to his bargain too. But I think that Laporta, 10 touchdowns this year, very good wrinkle in the defense, and not having him as a security blanket is going to be difficult for Detroit, unfortunately. I think that's another key.
Dan Campbell is optimistic that Sam Laporta will play in a limited fashion.
Okay. we'll see.
Yeah.
Good, interesting to see how that goes.
And I have to give you both your flowers. The predictions this season, specifically, yeah, Trevor. I don't know how the hell you knew at the beginning of the season the Lions. I mean, we're talking preseason here, okay? Not practice. We're talking preseason.
Yeah.
And
You
I'm
had
like,
to quote
who
him.
the
You had to
hell?
quote him, didn't you? You had to quote him. Ain't no MVP coming off the bench.
Right, but I'm saying, who the hell's this Laporta guy? He keeps saying Laporta, and then I look into Laporta, I go, okay.
Iowa.
And
Iowa.
Yeah.
Where else?
Iowa tight ends. Just ride with them.
That's it.
But no, Nate's
Tight end factories, both places.
Maybe Notre Dame. Iowa, Penn State, Notre Dame.
To an extent, Notre Dame. Yeah,
Michael
to an
Mayer.
extent.
God
Sorry,
bless
DB.
his soul. Michael Mayer, God bless him. I love him.
Oh,
Sorry.
that DB, I'm gonna get you a little excited here. That Michael Mayer card in the early days of Madden. Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about safety blanket? Yes.
Yes.
No, but yeah, I mean, our coverage this whole season has just been wonderful. Both you boys have been really spot on, and it amazes me as I watch back at some of these episodes. But Eagles and Bucks, I'm going to say this with as much passion and understanding as I can. If you're an Eagles fan, do not be so confident. Okay, Sirianni's on the ropes. Hurts. What the hell? Finger. I've seen, and I'm not.
It was bent the other way. It was it. Yeah, didn't look.
Jalen Hurts and I want to make this clear, everybody. When me, Nate, or Trevor attack an athlete, we're attacking their play on the field. We're not attacking them as a person. Jalen Hurts is a great person. I can't say enough about him. He does a lot for the community. But you really acted. You needed that moment. You could have just got it snapped back in, but you go ahead and have Marcus Mariota. Whatever. I don't believe in this
coach's decision too. Could have been a coach's decision. I didn't watch post game interviews for that game, so I don't know the context of that situation. But could have very well just been, hey, we're kind of locked in here. And at that point, I believe the Cowboys were smoking the Commanders, so the Eagles were locked into where they were. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, but the product they produced was just horrid. The Buccaneers are a way better team than the Giants, I think. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to go Bucs. And I don't know why, but I really don't want to hear Eagles fans sing "Fly Eagles Fly." Don't want to hear that shit. So Bucs.
Yeah. I'm going Bucs.
I hate it too. Go ahead, Nate. Sorry.
Bucs too. I'm with you, DB. The Eagles secondary with good old Matt Patricia calling plays, not it, man. Quit letting this guy near your franchise. He is a stink sandwich. He is another one of the end of Belichick that I just hope gets away from anywhere else, but with his freaking brothers in New England, Belichick, both Belichicks and McDaniels and the like. Get him back there. It's the only place he's ever been worth a lick of crap. Seriously. He's horrible, and he's proving that right now. Quit letting him call plays. Obviously, they're not going to let that happen now. They're too invested too late. But, a lot of injuries with the Eagles, too. Their defense has been horrendous the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season. God. Their quarterback has been turning it over at an alarming rate. He's banged up. He's got a finger that popped out and has been popped back in. He's got DeAndre Swift, who had an illness, so he missed the game. He has A.J. Brown, who went down with a knee injury. He's got Devontae Smith, who's missed time. Tight end has missed time. So Dallas Goedert has this year. So I'm going to go with the Bucs. It's at home. I know they kind of backed their way into the playoffs. It wasn't pretty. They had 3 field goals to win the game. But I think Mike Evans is due for a big day. You know, they need to get the ball to him and that decent receiving crew that they have and let him go to work, because I think that's their path to victory, passing and throwing it all over the place. I think the Bucs are a one-win team in the playoffs, and then they'll be eliminated. But I think they're going to get it done against the Eagles, and then everybody's going to go, what happened with this team?
Right.
And then we're going to see all sorts of problems arise. You might see, Kelsey retire. They might evaluate Hurts a little bit more specifically. They might fire some coaches. And I'm glad that finally this prediction came right. I know it's pretty terrible to say this and toot my own horn, but I said that them missing those two coordinators that they had in Gannon and Steichen was going to make a difference. And certainly it finally did. And I'll say this one other thing. For some odd reason, they kicked that fatso bodyguard off the sideline and up into the booth, and they're 1-5 since they've done that. So I'm totally fine with it. I can't stand the Philadelphia Eagles, but yeah, a lot of weird things have happened to that team, and I think another weird one's going to happen. They're going to lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that they weren't even sure who was going to be starting Week 1 until about a week or two before the season. So yeah, good for Baker. Could be a comeback player of the year type of guy. Will get votes, but yeah, I don't think he's done coming back yet. I think he's still going to be rising to the top and going to take his team to victory this weekend.
Y'all will indulge me for a second, and as I lament over a prediction gone wrong. The Eagles at the start of this season were my Super Bowl pick. I had the exact opposite philosophy as Nate in the two coordinators leaving. I did not think that would affect them too much with internal guys just kind of rising through the ranks. But it has. And that security guard literally getting his fingers in other people's faces, apparently that has an effect on them too. They've gone 1-5, like you said, Nate, since then. I don't – this team, it's not an inexplicable – downfall, but it certainly is one that raises a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Where did stuff go wrong? Obviously, Matt Patricia's play calling, you can point to that pretty directly. That's the most apparent one, but this team pretty handily made a Super Bowl last year. Yeah. And they did not lose much in the way of player personnel. Yes, they were dealing with injuries throughout the season, but they only really lost a lot in coaching personnel. And now I'm going to be super cautious if, a bunch of these coordinators say, I don't know, up and leave the Ravens. I'm going to be cautious about picking the Ravens now because of this freaking team. A long-winded way of saying I'm picking the Bucs too. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game in a Tampa Bay marsh. This could be in the teens. But ultimately, Baker Mayfield, I think he leads a game-winning drive, and hopefully, like you said, Nate, finally gets a touchdown to Mike Evans. Mike Evans been a little bit cold lately. Doesn't matter for fantasy now, but just to accentuate his greatness, give him another playoff moment. Yeah. Let's go Bucs and not the Pittsburgh ones, the Tampa Bay ones.
Right before we touch on the college championship boys, I have to say this. I would equate this downfall. Might be worse, might be the same as Steelers going 11-0, and just completely.
It's close. It's pretty damn close.
Cardinals.
I will say. Of course, we're Steelers fans. We have a microscope on them at all times. I think the Steelers 11-0 team was a little bit more fraudulent than this Eagles team.
I would agree.
Yeah. And like I said, caveat of me being a biased Steelers fan and ragging on my own team because they're under my microscope at all times.
Right.
But we could kind of see the downfall coming when we were beating what's his name for the Dallas Cowboys? Cooper or something.
Cooper Rush.
Yep.
Cooper Rush, thank you, by 5 points.
And then playing
we were supposed to have the most dominant offense in the NFL, and we did for a time. We were blowing a lot of teams out, but I don't know. With this Eagles team, it's kind of different because you could see the flaws a lot. You could see the flaws throughout the season, even in their wins.
Right.
So, I don't know. You look like you have something to add on here, Nate. Save me.
Oh, no, the only thing that I was going to say is that Cardinals team that started out like 8-0, 9-0, a couple years after that Steeler one, they were
yeah.
Steelers, I thought. But yeah,
agreed. They had more holes than Swiss cheese that they were somehow mending and getting wins with.
right. Yeah. Good call with seriously, it looked like a great call with your Super Bowl pick. Both of us are kind of reeling on ours for sure. I had the Bengals over the Cowboys. Cowboys I knew would have a good team for sure. Bengals still had a good team, but who could predict that Joe Vember would be short lived and then Jake Browning would almost lead them to a playoff spot. But it wasn't.
It's a side note on that too. AFC North had all winning teams this year, so they were they were in the toughest division in football. Period.
In the history of football, in terms of wins losses.
Oh yes.
Because it's the first time I think since the 1930s that all the
33 Depression era.
35 since that all 4 teams had a winning record. So for the Steelers to come out of that, I never ever would have thought that, especially with how bad we were bitching and moaning after they lost those 3 games in a row.
To 2-10 teams and
at home.
And I got to say this, and I don't want to I want Bills fans to feel more attacked in this episode than Eagles, but I have to say this. You really need to look at your coach. No, honestly, you really got to look at your coach as a fan base, as an organization, and say, why the hell did you make this change? This right after you made this change, Don almost fell. And I'm honestly, I was Sirianni pro Sirianni. Now I'm kind of questioning some of his decisions. Why would you do that to a struggling injury prone defense, and you fuck them even worse by throwing in a guy that his schematics and his personality as a caller is very aggressive, and you don't have the personnel at the time. I don't know where you come up with this shit.
Yeah. I think the rush is the Eagles passing rush is showing their age finally. Last year they led with sacks. They're not getting to the quarterback as much. It's exposing that defensive secondary. I know there's been some more injuries, of course, but that's kind of what's not coming together.
Yep.
I still believe in Coach Sirianni. I do. Losing both of your coordinators is difficult. Jalen Hurts going from possible MVP to questioning if he's going to, even keep being your guy. I mean, good gracious, like he was that close to being benched, I think, because he couldn't hang on to the ball. And then, I don't think it's all his fault. I think he's safe. His job is safe and everything. But, they'll have to make some big adjustments, I think, coming up this next season for sure, as will the Giants.
Yeah.
And as will the Commanders, because Dallas is pretty good, and I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they got those guys for a bit. They're going to be tough to beat for a few years to come for sure.
Yeah. It went longer than I wanted to, boys, but go ahead on College Championship there. Trevor, I apologize.
That's all good.
Jesus Christ! I look at the time here.
I see it ticking too. I'm like, time. But we were having a good conversation. I didn't.
To the viewers out there, me and Nate talked before Trevor joined, and he goes, "Oh yeah, this will be about an hour and a half." And I go, "I'm thinking in the back of my head, my dumb ass will drag this out somehow." And I apologize.
No, I mean, geez, how long did we spend on the freaking fired head coaches? I figured that'd be a 20-minute thing. I think we spent about 35, 40 minutes on it.
Great dynamic, though.
No biggie. We're not on a time crunch. We're not on ESPN or any other network that's going to condense our time.
Right.
We're freewheeling it here. We're good.
Yes.
But I didn't watch a whole lot of the national championship game. I kind of had it on in the background of playing video games and doing some stuff around the house. But kind of because I had the feeling it was going to turn out the way it turned out. And it turned out that the national semifinal between Michigan and Alabama was the national championship. Another instance where that has occurred. And that's not to discredit Washington. I think more so that they had a bad game than anything else. Penix looked off to me. He was missing wide open throws. They just looked all out of sorts. And he wasn't even under pressure that much. The Washington offensive line was doing rather well. But once they just couldn't stop Michigan's run game. Michigan controlled the clock. And it just disrupted the flow of offense for Washington when the ball got out of Penix's hands for 7-8 minutes at a time. But anyway, Harbaugh finally delivers national title for Michigan. Michigan had 303 rushing yards on the day. That's 3 football fields, boys. That's a lot of rushing yards. And I forget how much of those were Corums and how much of those were Edwards. They had actually a pretty even split in terms of yardage. Scored 2 touchdowns apiece. And like I said, just ran all over the place. I think they averaged around 8 yards a carry. Just absolutely insane, even by their standards. But, yeah, this was all Michigan all day long, unfortunately for Michael Penix and the Washington Huskies. But, yeah, not really too much to say on it. It was a close game for a while. Washington's defense held them in it longer than I expected them to, especially with the way they were worn out. I knew this was going to be a game of trenches, and the trenches were pretty damn close for, I would say, 3 quarters and like 5 minutes until Michigan went up 27-13, and the floodgates just kind of opened, unfortunately, in the fourth quarter. But Mr. McCarthy, he only threw for 140 yards. That's one of the lowest totals from a national championship winner in the modern era, and definitely in the playoff era. But, when you got 303 rushing yards from Edwards and Corum, you don't really need to throw the ball a whole lot. But, yeah, not much to talk about. And I will give Harbaugh credit, not only for obviously winning the national title, fighting through all the suspensions and scandals and all this, taking the heat for pretty much everything throughout the season. He's also had to battle lately, and we know it's probably going to happen at this point. He's going to go to the NFL. And I know as reporters, it's their job to ask these questions, and they're told by their bosses to ask these questions. But let the guy enjoy a national championship for 24, 48 hours, please. I mean, I know the rumors. He's been in contact with a bunch of teams, and he hired an agent, the same agent that Sean Payton has. But I don't know. It just Harbaugh handled that question very well from that reporter, I thought. And I don't know. I don't remember who the reporter was. I just know as part of the post-game presser, he was asked about potentially leaving to go join the NFL. And he's just like, I'm just enjoying the moment. I'm enjoying being with my team. I'm enjoying winning a national title, which very, very few and far between people get to do. So as much as I don't particularly like him as a person or as a coach per se, let the man have his flowers. He did what he came there to do, and that was to bring Michigan back to national prominence. And they did it with a 15-0 season, which I believe is only the 6th or 7th in NCAA history. So give Michigan all the flowers, please. They were easily the most dominant team throughout the season, even though they allegedly cheated to do so.
I was about that, yeah.
Yeah, allegedly. I have to make sure that term is utilized in this segment, allegedly.
Yes.
As much as I hate to say it as a Penn State fan too, Michigan deserved to win the national championship. Plain and simple. I know some people were complaining about a couple missed calls against Washington. Those are going to happen.
Right.
Shut up. Right. Michigan won. Didn't make a difference. They dominated. Done and done. And that's the last time I'll defend Michigan until hopefully forever.
Right. I know Nate's going to have opinions on it. I just real quick. I'm happy for the players. I'm not happy for Harbaugh or the boosters or whoever the hell. I think
The head honcho.
The head honchos. I think and we've talked about it. I really think the ones that lose, if the title somehow gets stripped or whatever comes out with this whole, the players lost, and that's where I'm just a little irritated by Harbaugh. I hate his brother too. I hate John. I hate both of them. But no, I'm happy for the university, mostly just for the athletes, because that's a one in a lifetime opportunity. And for the fans and their families, that's pretty goddamn cool. So, but we'll see what comes out.
Yeah, Michigan put it on the field. We'll see if it lasts or if it'll be sanctioned and taken away.
Right.
Regardless, we'll know them as national champions. I'll recognize that.
Yes.
Regardless if the NCAA does or not, they were certainly the best team in college.
Oh,
and I think a lot of people had an inkling that they were coming in. We heard about Washington being a possible playoff team, and good for those guys. They busted their butt. They had a really good year. I thought that they were fraudulent. It felt like TCU last year. Next year, I'm telling you, if it's 3 straight years where a team wearing purple goes 14-0 and they're fraudulent, I'm going to give up because.
Well, hey, Nate, the best things come in threes. It's probably going to happen. I don't know what team it's going to be, but.
Well, I'll tell you, Kansas State or.
Yeah, I was thinking them.
James Madison. If you guys go getting cute on us next year.
JMU, baby.
Your little purple uniforms go getting cute. You become this third purple wearing team to be fraudulent and get to that stinking game. I'm going to be jacked because everybody knew TCU was fraudulent. I knew Washington could not win the national title. I could just tell. I knew they were a good team, but you could just tell that they couldn't win the biggest game. They're still a great football team. I'm not trying to take away from anybody, but I feel like if you watched them all year and saw their escape wins against, Oregon State, against Oregon a couple times, and a couple other teams that they just narrowly escaped, Texas, they wanted to try to lose that one too, but Michigan. Michigan proved that they were certainly the best team all year. Didn't matter if they had their head coach or not. They could steamroll you, and that better be a message to people going forward. You win and lose football games. Their front got to Penix better than any front did all year. He was sacked, just 11 times this whole season, and they beat that kid up. And I think that's a testament to Washington's offensive line, because we saw that kid get hurt all 4 years at Indiana when he had no protection. At Washington, the kid never hardly got touched. And you see that finally the one game he gets touched. That game worried me if I was a scout. And I think that there were questions about him going in. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, did you see that? His accuracy is this or that." Well, okay. How he holds up in terms of his body, his durability, and how he throws with pressure at all. The dude was a mess last night, unfortunately. And he's a great player. He has an NFL future. He does. But I'm telling you, I don't think he's as high of a prospect as they currently have him. You can't get sacked 11 times in 15 games. That's not going to happen in the NFL. These guys get sacked minimum like 3 to 6 times a game. Plus they're hurried X amount of times too. And I think, if there's so many guys, if they had all the time in the world, they'd be throwing like that too. Seriously. There's a lot of guys that can just sling it, but not everybody can hang in the pocket and hit people on the run like that and, take a hit and withstand it. There's a select few people. Those are alpha males. And Penix is certainly an amazing quarterback, but I think it exposed him a little bit to the durability questions that he had, and can he take it with pressure questions, for sure. So we'll see what happens with his NFL future. I also thought I don't understand behind JJ McCarthy either. this dude was carried by an amazing offensive line, a stud runner, probably possibly the best in Michigan history in Corum while at Michigan. And sure, I understand McCarthy is considered the best quarterback while at Michigan in history. Sure, he's put up some great stats.
He wins. He went 27-1 as a starter.
Sure, hard to argue with. But you saw the accuracy issues when they had to throw the ball last night. He had some amazing throws. He's put right on the money. And then he had some throws. I'm like, where was he going with that? What are you doing? So those two guys, I still think NFL futures, but I'm skeptical on them. I think there's some better guys in the draft than them, but they're still going to be first round or, high picks. McCarthy could run it back. Very possible. I think I would if I were him. NIL is very rich, and I think he could be an even higher pick next year if he goes back and shores up some mechanics, some accuracy issues, that sort of stuff. But credit to Michigan. We'll see if it lasts. Was a true testament of ground and pound football at its best. And I'll tell you what, as a Penn State fan, our line was good, but not like that. We better get better in the trenches even more, because you can have skill guys upon skill guys upon skill guys. Ask Deontay Johnson and George Pickens if it matters. If you can't have a sucker that can get him the ball, or you can't have a line that can block, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So credit to Michigan. Hopefully, like Lindsay said, we never talk about that again, but enjoy it while it lasts.
Not in a positive light anyway.
Right. So, and one final thing. Jim Harbaugh has been in football, college football and pro football for about 40 years. This is the first title he's won since, before those days. So credit to him. Whether he cheated or not, we'll figure that out allegedly. So, but good for him if it was legitimate, and if not, then hopefully they just do right by that, and the kids get it in their hearts and in their minds, but the NCAA does what they got to do and takes it away from them. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, we know the NCAA loves to defend the athlete. So
take the current players and take their scholarships away and do all things to the current regime when the stuff happened 20 and 30 years before, and instead of punishing you punish the people that are there now that had nothing to do with the stuff.
Correct.
So,
yes. Yeah.
We could seriously see a death penalty or some of those sanctions like before, possibly if this goes the way it could. Say people are alleging that it was, and
yes.
That would be horrible for the new regime of Michigan players, because they might not even been part of it, and they might have known it was going on. So, yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on as we go forward.
Yeah, just have to throw out here, folks, and I think viewers out there will want to know the answer or what you guys feel on this. So, Jim, let's say he gets investigation starts, and let's say a sanction comes out, and he goes and gets a coaching job in the NFL. How irritated would you be that they drop no suspension for him and they don't take it over to the NFL?
I would be very annoyed, because the NFL in reports has said if he runs away from the sanctions, they are going to punish him. There's going to be, however, here's what I want to know. What are they supposed to do? Like, right. What are they actually going to do? They can say that, and then doing it is another thing. And here's
correct.
The other thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to fine Tepper $30,000 for throwing beer on him, like what?
300,000.
$300,000. If you're going to find
pennies, but yes,
yeah, he's worth $25.2 billion, and you're going to find him $300,000. What are they going to do to him? Spend him for a few games in the NFL? I mean, if the dude's going to get $100+ million contract in the NFL, spending him for a few games is going to be nothing, and you can just convert salary around that to signing bonus or whatever. There's so many workarounds that they can possibly do it. But if he goes to the NFL and they're going to say, hey, well, you're going to be suspended a full season if you come here, then he's not going to come. He's just going to sit in Michigan and take it that way, because this dude is going to get a 10-year, $125 million contract with only a 1-year guarantee of not going to the NFL. And that was the offer that they had previously. Now that he won the national championship, who knows if they'll up the ante or not? They might go, hey, no.
We could see something as early as later this week.
Exactly. So, but yeah, let the guy freaking enjoy this too.
Right.
Agree, Trevor. Goodness gracious, come on.
Yeah, though I will credit Jake Mercer on that as well. He was the first one to say that to me, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let the guy enjoy. The guy just won a national championship, like you said, Nate. First championship in his long tenured career of football. Let him soak it in a little bit. Jeez, I mean, I know the rumors are swirling around, and like I said, it's their job to stir the pot.
Right.
But come on, man.
Have
a little human in the media, please.
Right.
Let the guy enjoy it.
Well, I had to pose it to you guys because I've just seen it all over, and it's literally what at this point 24 hours, and they're already throwing this out.
I'll say this too: the NFL, they did nothing to Pete Carroll.
That's what
they
I'm saying.
said they didn't do anything. They didn't say they were going to do anything. At least they're saying they're going to do something with Harbaugh.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think there was more in play there. They don't want to open the can of worms, but
I know.
That's never here nor there. You can watch documentaries on it, people. We're not going to open up a can of worms here that goes to 3 hours. And
hell, there might be 30 for 30 on this team somewhere down the line. So we'll see.
Right.
We'll see.
But anything else, folks?
No, I'm good. It's plenty for me.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I got one more thing.
Yes,
and we don't talk a whole lot about, of all things, golf on this podcast, but I figured this was newsworthy with Tiger Woods and Nike officially ending their partnership after 27 years together. Wow. 27 years. First signed back in 1996. And it was pretty much right out of the gate as Woods turned pro. He settled on Nike from head to toe. He was decked out in Nike. And, of course, he had the Nike clubs back when Nike Golf still produced golf clubs. And that was until about 2013. And then, of course, Tiger Woods still had deals with Titleist and companies of that nature. But, and regarding Woods' future in terms of sponsorships, he's been wearing a lot of FootJoy stuff, which is kind of the stuff that I wear when I go golfing. It's comfortable. It's, the shoes are nice and cushy, but we'll kind of see. But came as a big shock to a lot of the people in the golf world because we're always used to Tiger Woods strolling down 18 on a major championship in that red shirt of his. And it's not going to have a swoosh on it anymore. It's honestly a shame. And there doesn't seem to be any ill will either way. It's just a contract terminated. And I know Nike, they might be trying to further diminish their golf brand. I know they're making a lot of budget cuts across the board over these next couple of years. They're no longer, unfortunately, they're no longer a growing company. They're a grown company. And that's how you make more profit is you cut the middle instead of building the top. So, and that's part of what this was here. And just a small piece of that. But yeah, and I kind of dug a little bit of digging into this whole Tiger and the red shirt thing because he always wears a red shirt on Sunday, and he has pretty much since the millennium started. So there's a whole article on this, and I might honestly share it in the comments here, breaking down Tiger Woods and his red shirts and and his history with the red shirts. So, and yes, I'm going to spit some interesting little tidbits here for you. Only 3 of his tournament victories, and that's not just major victories, tournament victories, came when he was wearing a shirt other than a red shirt, something a shade of red. Those were the 96 Vegas Invitational, the 2000 Mercedes Championship, and then the 2000 Bay Hill Invitational. So every major championship, every tournament from there on was, what's that static? What the hell's going on?
It's driving me nuts.
Go ahead, Trevor. Talk.
Do we got it, DB?
I don't think. Is it me?
It might be you. I know it's not me. It hasn't been me this whole time. All right, fine. Interrupting me in the middle of talking about Tiger Woods. Come on. But Anyway. So this article, they had it broken down by different shades of red too. Damn it, baby! Come on! Is that you? Maybe mute yourself. No, maybe.
I'm going to have you close out the show. Go ahead.
Let's wrap it up.
It might not even be him. I still hear it. Whatever. But anyway, I'll share the article in the comments, and y'all can see all about Tiger Woods' red shirt. Geez, that might even be me. I don't even know what the hell's going on here. But you want me to do the outro too with this? I don't know what the hell's going on. Wrap it up? All right. Have a good day. Have a good night. Stay safe out there. This was another episode of Buckle Up with the Boys. It was a pleasure. Good night.